Well, good morning and good afternoon for those people who are not on the Pacific Standard Time. We want to welcome you to our Leadership Now series. And today we have Dylan Rucker. And before we introduce Dylan, just the reason why Eric and I started the Leadership Now series is because within this time, and actually it was even before this whole stay home, stay safe pandemic, we had talked about for the past year and a half to start interviewing people that we know, even people that we don't know, who have tools, ideas, gifts, insight that gives us hope, to give us a different way of looking at things and seeing things. And so what a perfect time for us in this time to actually launch what we had talked about for a year and a half. And it really is to give people ideas, hope from thought leaders and mentors. And if you have not seen any of our previous series, you can go to our website, so drivenleadership.com. You will see the webinars, the recent webinars, and then if you click on it, it actually goes into our YouTube page, and you can access, there's the full force of the 30 to 45 minutes, or there's also short clips. So do that as well. Next week, we have Tiffany Shimmick, and she is going to be talking on pivotal leadership. So that one is going to be amazing as well. So first and foremost, I want to introduce Dylan Rucker. And for those of you who do not know Dylan, he is the owner of DS Heating and Air. He's married and has 3 bonus children. And Dylan, you have such an incredible story. I mean, all the way back from just your bio of being a quiet kid, and even as an adult, you're a little quiet, yet you have just this spark of life. You were into extreme sports, and then you got into drugs and alcohol, dropped out of school, right? In your 11th grade.
Yep.
And at the same time, you had some HVAC background. So you went through this whole series of ups and downs, some ebbs and flow, and pivot, shifted to where you are today. And you are truly the epitome of grace, of second chances, of hope, and of people following after their dreams to truly make something different in their life. You know, sometimes I see people who they get stuck. And, you know, we all have crap that happens in our life. We all have a story. And it's one of my favorite sayings that our mess becomes our message, if we allow it to. And you truly are the epitome of a mess becoming a message and being such an inspiration of hope in your community, in your family, and in your team. So I'd like to hear just a little bit about you. Who are you? What happened? How did you create from where you were to the shift?
Well, it's a long story, but you know, growing up, I was extremely quiet, and you know, it was odd because I would be kind of the shy kid, but you put me on a motorcycle or on a snowboard, and I was doing things that most people would be afraid to do. So it was like I was able to kind of release myself during doing those types of activities. But you know, when I turned about 15, 16, 17, I started rebelling at a real hard level. And, you know, like you said, I dropped out of school, and I basically decided I was going to do whatever I wanted. And at that point, I was drinking on a regular basis and doing drugs and kind of, you know, in my mind, having fun and, you know, being wild, I guess. So that eventually turned into a hardcore habit, and took me into a very dark place to where, you know, I hurt a lot of people in my life and in my family. And, you know, the thing that I look at now with those situations is that without going through that stuff, I wouldn't be to where I am today. So what you talk about, you know, second chances and the message being a hope and so on and so forth, I would not be here if I did not experience those things the way that I did. So now it's like, I have friends still that I would party with or I hung out with that are either in prison or they're dead or they're strung out. And here I am on a whole different level, basically trying to live my life in a way that I'm happy and I make everybody else around me happy. And it's just to see the difference in the, you know, the contrast of where I could have been to where I am now. It's very surreal, and it's a blessing. It's a huge blessing. You know, how I got to that point, it wouldn't have been without people who love me, helping me, you know, to get sober. And that is a huge part of, you know, where, like, my story of being to where I was and to where I was able to go once I did get sober. And I had family, I come from a background of alcoholism, basically, and drug abuse. But I had an uncle that, he had spent, I would say, the majority of his life and ended up getting sober in his late 50s. And he reached out to me and kind of helped me and showed me a path, basically, of how to do this. And he was a guy that I basically kind of looked down upon. It was like everybody kind of wrote him off. And then he became one of the major influences in my life. And, I think about that today, and it's like the same thing. He wouldn't have been able to help me if he hadn't gone through the things that he went through. So it's kind of a chain reaction. And that's life, right? So our experiences kind of define who we are.
Well, we all have, there's always, we talk about in bold, there's a champion, who's our champion, that influencer. We all have someone that has helped us become get into that defining moment in our life. And whether we forget, there's a quote that says that if you forget the song, that role model, that cheerleader is the one that actually sings it back to you. And those are the people, they're like, no, you have a song, you have a dream. And so having that time, that rocky time in your life, and you have your uncle who's that influencer says, hey, come on, Dylan, let's go. You got this. So was that around your 30s when you decided to check in to the rehab?
It was November 6th, 2006. So I was 30 years old when that happened. And, I went in to a detox center, and that was a challenge. It took me about 2 weeks prior to getting into there, which I was still using and drinking during that time. And when I did get checked into it, it was voluntarily. I was kind of tired at that point. I had caused some issues with my parents that they were pretty much done with me, so I was more of a burden to everybody else. And I was a danger also at that time than I was kind of helping anybody. So I checked myself in. I was able to get into a detox center. And through that, it was like there was several chain reactions, like situations or people who I met who actually touched me in ways to where it was like I was able to have an awakening. They called it a spiritual awakening, and in the program, and it was like I look at that now and I'm like, wow, that actually was what happened. So of course, along the way, I think I know better because I'm basically in control of what I'm doing, and I'm being told I need to go here and I need to do this afterwards, and I have my own plans. And along that path and going through those experiences, I was able to actually see, okay, they're right, which took me to the next step. To the next step, it was the same thing. I went to a 90-day program after that. And I was voluntarily there. And the place I was at, there was a lot of people that were kind of sent there from jail. So it was a different environment, and it was challenging to stay. But I kind of came to a place where I said, well, if I don't accomplish this and I don't actually finish this, I'm going to let a lot of people down, including myself at that time. So I still had ideas of when I got out of there of what I was going to do with my life, and which were wrong at the time. But going through that and getting towards the end and actually graduating, I realized, okay, in order to continue on the path that I'm going and actually stay clean and, have some sort of life afterwards, I need to go into a sober living, which I got into a sober living. So at that time, I had gone to work, with a couple of guys who were doing construction, and I didn't really like what I was doing. And I had grown up around air conditioning at that time. I've basically been in and out of my whole life. My father had done air conditioning. He had a couple companies. So I had a skill and a trade that I knew how to do. So I reached out and actually got a job out in Malibu, which was great because I got to work on the beach every day. And it was kind of a peaceful thing, to be able to go. And I got the job myself. I went in there, I talked to my boss, I kind of figured out what I needed to make. And even though I in my mind, I was worth more, I was humble enough to go, this is what I need just to live right now. I just want a job. He ended up giving me more money because he kind of saw what I was capable of doing. He took a chance on me, and I actually went out there and I ended up becoming one of the lead guys very quickly. And that was, 2006 to 2008. And in 2008, I ended up getting my license. And that's when I basically told him I appreciate everything you did, but I'm going to go start my own business now. And which was a great time to do it because it was 2008, so.
Everything drops, like the whole economy is tanking.
Exactly, yeah.
No way to start a business.
Exactly, so. But I didn't consider stuff like that. And I think that's kind of one of the things that helps me now because, being a business owner, it is a struggle. There's a lot of ups and downs. But every time that something challenging comes up, it's like, all right, I may get stressed about it, but I don't let it affect me to a point where it's going to keep me down. I get back up and we keep pushing forward. And that, I think, has helped me through this time now because we've been in business. We're coming up on what, 12 years. So, and during that time, it taught me you have to be persistent. You have to push forward. You have to basically not give up for the most part, you know. So, and you know, at that time, I was down living in West LA, and my father had his company up here in the Antelope Valley, and he had been doing a lot of housing tract work. So when all that happened, he kind of started. He basically was on his way out of business. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go up there and help him and try to keep going. Well, he was, I think at that point, kind of done and kind of over it. So I just took his customer list and I started working it, and that's how, you know, I kind of got started for the most part with my business.
So going back into, as a kid, you loved extreme sports, and having extreme sports mindset, it is the willingness to just go after, like it's that risk taking, and you take that into an adult, and it's the same type of mindset. It is, you get knocked down, you get back up, you go after it, and there's this kind of this hunger to just go and just do it, right? It's the risk taking.
Yeah.
So you've always been that way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So absolutely.
So 2008 comes along, you're like, I don't know anything, like we don't know what we don't know. And it's just, I'm going to do this. It's a game, it's a challenge. You take your dad's list and you start exploding in the midst of, you know, the crazy crash. And you're doing very, very well. And then all of a sudden you hit another pivotal point where you sat back and you had your house, you have your family, and you're broke. And you had to reset. So what created the reset, and how did you get out of that?
Well, there was stuff that I knew that I didn't know. And that's what was frustrating about it. I'm like, all right, I'm a technician, I'm an installer, I can put my hands on things and do it very well. Running a business, totally different ballgame, you know. And I watched my dad basically start to do very well, and then he ended up failing, and you know, he may have saw everything coming, but he didn't plan ahead to make sure that they can get through that. And which is a lesson that I learned now. And I look at it and go, okay, especially with, say, what's happening right this moment, it's like I think we did a fairly good job mobilizing to get through what's going on with the COVID stuff. But at that time, you know, I was sitting there going, all right, there's something I don't know. I have to educate myself at this point, because otherwise this is not worth it. You know, I'm in debt. I'm struggling just to get jobs and to pay. And I have guys that I'm responsible for. And my attitude and the way that I acted towards them was probably extremely inappropriate, but it wasn't out of, you know, anything they did. It was more of my stress and my inability to actually function as a business owner responsibly enough to make sure that I'm taking care of them. So at that point, I ended up reaching out and finding it was like a consulting group for heating and air conditioning companies, which was one of the best things I ever did, because it gave me a place to kind of interact and you know, learn from other contractors who are doing the same thing. And then also they had a business model that was pretty, you know, pretty solid as far as being a quality contractor, pricing yourself right, making sure you understand your numbers and your financials. And then also they had some leadership stuff going on. So, you know, which that took me a while to kind of pick up. It was like, all right, let's get this together. Let's actually create a business plan, which I had no clue what that was at the time. When I did go out there and we did create the business plan, I'm looking at the revenue goal and I'm going, yeah, right, this ain't gonna happen, you know? And so the next year, that was 2012 when we created that. We created 2013's business plan. We went out there and I exceeded it probably about 25%, which I was like, okay, cool, you know? And from that point forward, the next couple of years until 2005, we were growing at about a 30% rate. And, you know, one of the things I know now, it's like, okay, if you're going to grow at that rate, you have to kind of set yourself up to be able to accommodate that later on. You know, and they have what they call the walls of business. It's when your business can't accommodate growth. There's the structure you have to kind of reset and then now set yourself up to go to that next level. And I didn't understand that either at the time. And it was like, okay, well, I'm just talking about let's get some money and then we'll be able to afford this stuff, and not really paying attention or understanding exactly what was happening. And a lot of businesses do that, especially in the heating and air conditioning world. They go up and they come right back down because they don't set themselves up to get over that wall and actually move forward. So at that time, I was like, okay, I had a buddy that he was a commercial guy, and I was doing a little bit of commercial work here and there. I was kind of all over the place, and I had the mentality of, okay, we need to do everything we can do just to bring in money. You know, more work, the better it is, instead of specializing in something. And his boss was retiring, and he said, look, you can take whatever's left over of the business, all the customers, and move on. And they were, doing a pretty good amount of revenue. So I said, hey, let's partner up. Brought him in as a partner, bolted on a commercial department without really considering the dynamics of a partnership and setting expectations and roles and kind of duties of what everybody's going to do. And we just looked at it like, let's go. And we got busy. First year was great. We did a lot of money. Second year, it was like, I started looking, and now we're getting so much work, and we're not setting ourselves up and training people correctly to be able to function in a way that we're efficient enough to actually earn a profit. So we started losing money. And then before you know it, it was like we were losing a big chunk of money every year. And our replacement division was basically funding all the losses from the commercial. And I was turning into basically an unpleasant person because, I love my partner. We're still good friends. He's an extremely hard worker. His mindset is different than mine as far as that goes. He's just like, go, 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 go. I'm on the other end going, slow down. Let's set this up and try to, prepare ourselves and protect ourselves going forward. And 2018 rolls around. I was in business planning, and I was sitting there looking at him. I'm talking to him, and I'm like, you know what? This is not working at all. So I basically terminated the partnership right there, and went into 2019 going, okay, he worked for a couple months to finish up what we had going on, and then they left. And so did about $2 million worth of revenue. So I was not expecting at that time what was going to happen with that loss of revenue. I understood, okay, yeah, it's a number, but really, what are the implications of that happening? And then also, there was a kind of like a shake among all the employees that I didn't understand the dynamic of that either, when basically half the company left. So that created a whole nother challenge for 2019.
Looking at what you said, so the ups and downs, right? You walk out, you're sober, you're like, okay, let's work, let's go to it, and you're the worker, like you just do, and you start to see success. 2008 hits, you take over the list, and you see success, and it's like it's up and down, but you have this growth, and then you realize that you don't know what you don't know, and hey, I need to hire a business coach. And it's and so many people, and it's not just HVAC. I mean, I hit that too. It's like, what plan? Like, whatever's in front of me, let's just do. Eric, on the other hand, he's like, no, we need a vision. But then you talked about having the two dynamics. So a lot of times just in life, when we see something isn't working or there's a gap, we don't stop and pause and go, okay, so what's the plan? Are these people truly going to work alongside us? What's our value? What's our skill set? What's our role alignment? And then we just get back into the do mode, do. And then to all of a sudden say, it's not working. I need to reset again. And Dylan, you've had the opportunity to reset and reset and reset and reset. And I'm going to actually end this and launch it so people can see. And also, for those of you, there's a chat bar. You can actually click chat for everyone. It defaults to panelists. So you can actually chat to attendees, to panelists. And if you have questions, absolutely ask questions as we go along. So 2019, and actually that's where we met you. And one thing that I know about you is that you were hungry. In fact, your whole topic was active engagement for consistent improvement. And there's the Gallup poll that talks about the actively engaged, the disengaged, and the actively disengaged. And for years and years and years, I mean, it's been well over 30, 35 years of in-depth study that they show within any organization, there are three groups of people. There's the actively engaged, there's the disengaged, and there's the actively disengaged. And for disengaged and actively disengaged employees and then leaders, because we get the behavior that we tolerate, if we're disengaged or we're actively disengaged, it costs over, they're saying up to like $400 billion of lost revenue in the United States alone. So pivot, we meet you in October and you're hungry. That is one thing. It's like, what can I do to continuously learn and improve? And you end up in Bold in January, and you were just on, like, it's just shake it off, shake it off. So how do you create active engagement in your life, in your company?
You know what? First, by being an example, you know, after I went to Bold, and I think I told you about this, it was like I came home and I couldn't communicate what I just went through with anybody. With my wife was the first one that I noticed. So I was like, all right, you know, you don't understand what's going on with me. And which was interesting because, you know, usually it's like you can explain something to somebody. You can't explain that. So it was interesting to see how people responded to that. So I was like, all right, well, now we're going into the office. People need to go through this. And, you know, there's a book that I read. It was called Extreme Ownership. And it was by the SEAL team guys, right? And I'm like, all right, it was interesting because they talked about leading up the chain. And basically, if you're in a position, take ownership of that position. And if you have people above you that don't understand, you know, what exactly you're doing or what the option, talk to them and educate them on how to make this better. And I was like thinking about, okay, well, if everybody had that mindset in my company, in our company, basically, it was like, we would be on a whole nother level. You know, everybody would take ownership of their position. So how can I make that happen? And I was like, well, first thing, I'm going to send everybody to Bold, you know? So that was like my first idea. And I'm like, all right, well, if they go there, then they'll understand exactly what I'm talking about or how I feel about this whole situation, which was cool. So I sent 3 people, of course, right? Well, now it's kind of spreading throughout. So
You send 3 people and then it stops. Like literally 3 people. Friday's the day that the entire country shuts down.
Yeah. So, you know, which that kind of sucked that happened because I have a whole group of people that I still want to send, but we're going to get to them. And, you know, but those people are, I mean, Gabriel is one of the guys that went, and every day he tells me, watch, so this is going to be a great year for me. And I'm like, it makes me extremely proud to have somebody like Gabriel, who's a fairly quiet guy, have that confidence to be able to go out there and do what he does. And his numbers are killing it. And his customers, I'm continually getting good reviews on him. They love him. So that's awesome because he's going to go big places. You know, he can do anything he wants to do, which is, you know, a mindset thing. Really, you said something earlier about the reset, and I had the opportunity to have it. We all have that opportunity. And that's the thing now. It's like, all right, well, if yesterday was bad, today doesn't have to be that way, you know, so why not change it? And, you know, for me, my biggest thing is that I have to continually be in a positive mode. Otherwise I can't get down on myself, you know, and it's like, but I'm constantly doing something or reading something or watching something or listening to something or talking to somebody, whether it's my people. I mean, just talking to my people, it's like I learned so much from them, and I'm able to actually kind of understand what they want from me a little bit more. And that makes me better because now I can try to do that. You know, so that's the biggest thing, I think.
So I was looking at your website and it was talking about grassroots or old school values. So how does that tie into active engagement? How do you live that?
The reason how that came about is I have a vision. I remember going as a kid, as like, I think I was probably 10 or 11, with my dad running service calls, and he worked for a union company in the San Fernando Valley here in California. And like I would go run calls with him when I was a little kid, and I used to use the CB radio to talk to the dispatcher, which was cool. Now I go, I wouldn't let any of my guys do that as much as I would want to. That's a liability, you know. But anyways, when I would go to their shop, it was all tradesmen. They were all uniformed up. They were all proud of what they did. They all had good camaraderie together. You know, they all were proud of being in that industry. And it's like that kind of went away, I think, and we devalued what we do. How that happened, I don't know, you know, but the guys now, it's like a lot of people don't think of it that way. When we have meetings, I always go, okay, how many HVAC professionals do I have in the room here? And at first people they wouldn't raise their hand. I said, okay, well, what's the definition of a professional? People pay us to go into their home to fix their stuff. You are a professional. You need to see yourself that way, right? So when they start getting that and they start realizing that, guess what? Now it's a title that they're proud of, and most people don't look at themselves that way. So having that mindset, you know, is good for them. So I want to create that environment to where everybody's proud of what they do. They consider themselves professional HVAC technicians or salespeople or installers, whatever it may be. And they're happy to be at a place that recognizes that, you know. So It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work finding the right people. And then actually, I learned this in Bold, and this was one of the big takeaways that I had. And it was like, all right, I can get focused on, and my mind closes off everything around me. So I can sit there and think, all right, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And then guess what? I ignore everybody around me. That's not good.
Tunnel vision.
Exactly. So, lining everybody up, it's like, all right, we all have to be at the same level. So that starts in our office from the initial phone call. Who's answering the phones? Are they professional? Do they know what they're doing? Have we taught them enough to be able to do what they need to do the way that we want to do it, the way that represents our company in a way that we can be proud of? To the technician going out there, do they show up? Are they respectful? My goal is to do whatever the customer wants us to do when we get there, especially now. It's like, I don't want to force anything upon anybody. If you're uncomfortable with what we're doing, let us know. We'll fix it, and we'll do what you need us to do just so we can be there for you. And having that mindset kind of brings everybody together, I think. And I interact with customers still. I was out on Friday. We installed a system. Little thing tripped on the system, and it was like 7:30 at night. The lady called and left a message. So I ended up calling her. Couldn't get a hold of another technician, so I went over there and took care of it myself. So, and I interacted with the lady. She was extremely happy that she didn't have to go the whole weekend without any cooling, especially because it was hot. So, grassroots, old school, I'm there for you if you need me. And we're going to do anything we can and everything we can to make sure that you're happy with what we do and you've got everything you paid for the most part. So it's as simple as that.
And it ties it all when you talk about extreme ownership. And it's owning who you are. And now what you're doing with your team is, no, you are a professional. So you're changing their mindset. They get to own their role. They know who they are, the way they look, the way they act. And then for you yourself, you're leading the ship, and you're not too proud or too big to come alongside of them. It's like, if you can't do it, I'm going to walk alongside of you and still make sure that it gets done, because I'm going to walk my talk. And that's what I so admire about you, Dylan, is that, just knowing you over these past few months, getting to know your team, normally we don't have as many, and they weren't all peer level, but listening to, talking to all three of them and you before they came into Bold. So we had three different people come in, and how they showed up blew me away. The level of engagement, the level of authenticity, willing to hold the bar, that comes from you. And when you showed up, it was like, I mean, you were such a proud papa. You were in your suit, you dressed up for them, but there was such a respect all the way through, and that comes from you. And it goes all the way back down to, and I really believe this is such a message for people, that it doesn't matter what our past is. It doesn't matter what we've done. Our mess becomes our message if we allow it. And Absolutely. We can build on it, because the more we do that, we can relate to other people. I've done that. Someone else maybe has had mistakes in their past, but they want to be an owner. What would you say to them?
Own your mistakes. Realistically, first of all, what happened yesterday, use that to change today. All right. And you can reset it at any time. I actually was told that by somebody one time. And this is a story that sticks in my head, because I had this old piece of junk Chevy truck, and it would not start. And I was literally in the midst of being strung out, really. And I was pushing it down the street, trying to jumpstart it. And somebody I knew drove by me and kind of talked out the window. They were like, Dylan, it doesn't have to be this way. And I remember that very vividly. You know what I mean? It does not have to be that way. You can create anything you want to. We all have that ability to do that. And it's just understanding and knowing that that's the case, and you can, gives you the power to be able to go do whatever you want, so why not? So if you want to be an owner, go do it, and especially now, there's a lot of help and a lot of groups out there that you can jump right into, and you can get a lot of information very quickly that can set you up to be successful. And being open to being able to receive that, I think, is probably the hardest thing for a lot of us to do, especially, I don't know, for some reason, HVAC techs, especially, they're very proud. They're, and they're very strong-minded of, I know what I'm doing, so you can't tell me anything. And, I talk to guys now, and it's like, well, they reach out for help and then they reject it because, oh, that'll never work, or that, my people won't accept that. And it's like, well, you don't know until you try. And guess what? Having that mindset is never going to allow you to do anything. So being open-minded to be able to change a little bit or learn something is huge. And, I mean, you want to do something, go do it, and be open-minded enough to accept any kind of information that you can get, to learn, to grow, and to move forward. You can do it. It's not a problem. If I can do it, you can do it. So,
and then we also have, sure other people, other HVAC owners, I know a couple of them are going to jump on here. They'll watch it later. And it's a tough time. And so many unknowns, so many different ways to do things. I've heard stories where some of the old school, the ones that they don't have more of that growth mindset, is they literally shut their doors waiting for things to change. But nothing will change if nothing changes, and things are going to be different. And I remember you saying that week afterwards, you said, I'm not going to lie, it was tough. But then I got in the mindset of, well, what can I do? And I started just putting filters on people's doorsteps. I wasn't charging them. It was just, how can I serve? How can I help? So what are you doing differently now? Because you said that you are busier than you've ever been now, but it's a ripple effect. So what are you doing to create that engagement?
Right now we're just holding on for dear life. But, look, everybody from my installers to my service techs, it's the same thing. What can we do to help you? Everybody's suffering right now in some way or another, whether they're stuck at home or they're not working, or they have health issues. How can we fix and help you? How can we be of service to you? And I think just that mindset and us being open to helping people regardless of the situation has created, it's an opportunity for us to kind of grow and take market share from a business standpoint. But that wasn't our intent originally. I was giving away filters to make myself not stressed out at the time. And I'm like, all right, I have to go do something, and I have to be positive in some way or another. So that way I can at least keep level head going through and show my people that this is, we're okay. It's not a problem. And, that was my initial intent on it. And, it turned into, now I kind of was excited. My wife was like, are you going to come home now? Cause I'm driving around dropping off filters, but I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm taking care of these people. We're fortunate of where we're at right now. Our filter's clean. A lot of people don't want to go out. They're scared. I'm going to take it to them so they can make sure it's done, So, but I think, from that mindset from the get-go, it was like, I had a couple, we separated everybody in the office. And we put them, there was people working from home. There was a couple of people working in the office. But once we started really getting busy, everybody was willing to come back and actually kind of pull together. And now we're like going full throttle, and we have, people reaching out to people. We have a lot of calls coming in, and it's like, we're just trying to adjust and make it as easy as possible for people to do business with us. So that way we can make sure we take care of as many people as possible, So
how are you going to stay actively engaged in the midst of a, a summertime that's super hot with all the changes, so that you can continually learn and improve? What are you going to do yourself to stay actively engaged?
Well, someone told me, one of my mentors that I talked to for air conditioning, they said, when you have processes in place, during summertime is the easy part for them to basically disappear, because you're busy, you want to get stuff done, you want to move forward. So it's difficult to actually keep your system in place and function at a slower pace, which means, the mindset, especially for contractors, like, I got to take as much as I can because it might not be here next month, or next week. And continually to generate the best service possible, be as thorough as possible, the best customer service as possible, sticking to that gun and trying to hold everybody accountable to that, along with, I like to go on hikes. I like to read. I like to listen to that type of stuff, that podcasts or Audible stuff. Doing those things on a regular basis slows me down a little bit and keeps me kind of in line. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is I'll move at 100 miles an hour, and before you know it, I've blown through everybody around me and I piss people off and so on and so forth. So I need to slow myself down and kind of keep level headed by doing those types of things. I meditate in the morning. I never thought I would meditate in the morning. It's funny. So, but I love doing it. If I get in a stressful situation, I'll take 10 minutes and meditate, and just calm down a little bit. It's something that I learned to do now. And now it's something that's part of my daily routine, stopping, slowing down, maybe focusing a little bit before I talk when I do talk to people, and, kind of evaluating the situation, especially at work or when I'm talking to an employee, and, going at it from a different angle, and just keeping everybody kind of held accountable to what we said we were going to do when we weren't as busy. We all talked about this. We all had goals of what we wanted to accomplish. They hold me accountable, I hold them accountable, and that allows us to be better than we were yesterday or the day before last year. So
you talk about meditating. I came across this study from the American Stress Institute, and they have all this research behind just deep breaths. So when you take deep breaths and just breathe deeply in and out, it actually releases all these stress hormones.
Yeah.
And I do a meditation. It's a breathing, actually. It was taken by the Bud SEALs training, and it was called 4x4. And it's just breathing 4, hold for 4, and exhale. And then the same thing. And it's great. You can literally alleviate your stress just by doing that. So if people don't meditate, that's a way to get into meditation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I had my nephew meditate I woke up real early. It was like a week or two ago. I woke up and he was awake, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I said, well, "Come on, we're gonna go meditate." He's, I think, 11. So he came down and we were both meditating. And then when we were done, I look up and he's over there passed out.
He's sleeping. That's deep meditation.
That's pretty good. So absolutely.
And for anyone who wants to, if you have questions or comments that you have for Dylan, go ahead. You can either raise your hand or you can put them into the chat. And as they're doing that, just any last thoughts, Dylan. So if someone's struggling today, it doesn't matter if they're HVAC or not, if it's your TSM, if it's just someone who's on furlough, what could you say, what message could you give that could help inspire them?
I mean, there's a lot of people that are in the same boat as you. And this is something that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago. Sometimes I'm like, well, why would anybody want to hear my story? Well, everybody has a story. Everybody has struggles and challenges. I know a lot of people that had the same struggle and challenges I did, but that's because I'm involved with that group. But being able to go and talk about that with people does something to you that's kind of amazing. It's like, it's normal. You don't feel abnormal or, maybe singled out as being something's wrong, right? Well, talk to some people about what's going on. First off, reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. I'm available. I'll talk to anybody as far as if there's a problem or an issue or stress, and maybe find some activities or something that allows you to de-stress. Like I go hiking. I love hiking and listening to podcasts or books when I do that, and I do that on a regular basis. Or meditating. Those types of things allow you to at least kind of calm down a little bit, reset, and then, look at a way that especially now with all the negative stuff going on, there's a lot of positive too. And when it's amazing when you can make that shift and change from the negative to the positive, what really opens up for you. And it's like, it's kind of endless opportunity if you look at it that way. So being able to kind of maybe slow down, stop, reset, look at the opportunity and go, okay, well, things aren't that bad. I'm still alive. I still have health. My family's good, whatever it may be. And, take advantage of that and use that to drive you a little farther. So,
Keith Gregory he has something he wants to share. So I'm going to actually put him on audio. All right, Gregory, you can talk.
She doesn't want to see my beautiful face, but hey, buddy, how you doing, Rucker?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. Hey, thank you so much for your inspirational message, man. I think about you a lot, especially being brothers from the same industry. But my question to you is, I'm sure you're coming across the same issues that we are over in the Midwest. For those of you listening, I'm in Michigan. Rucker's all the way out on the West Coast. We are another HVAC company. What are you doing? What are your guys doing to try to combat those people that are still a little apprehensive to let you into the home? I mean, a lot of what we do, a lot of the business that we do is contingent upon that face-to-face interaction. So we're kind of finding it hard with our virtual appointments to try to get that next step of, okay, now we need to fix something. Can you let us in the house? How are you addressing the issue of being, cautious with your clients and making sure that we're being respectful of their concerns and also taking our safety precautions, as well as trying to move forward with getting business done.
We asked them, how would you like us to come into your house, and let them dictate what we're going to do as far as being able to get inside. There's a lot of people freaked out, but it's like, okay, you can isolate yourself over here. We're going to enter through your door, go to do whatever we got to do. And on our way out, we're going to sanitize on the way out, and I think we've had one person that has, when we were able to get in the garage, the furnace was in the garage, and then they basically stuck the check through underneath the door, and that was it. So, unfortunately, because we do have to enter people's homes, we're limited on we can't fix it virtually, unfortunately. We can kind of diagnose and hopefully set something up. We've been able to a couple times be able to help people get at least their system functioning by them. We don't have them go in and touch major stuff, but checking breakers or changing batteries and thermostats or whatever it may be, at least so they're functional. And then we have a appointment scheduled for when they feel comfortable with letting us in the home. And just, like I said, it's their decision on how they want it to happen, and being open to allowing them to dictate what they want from us, as really kind of let us do whatever we need to. So, which is kind of interesting,
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate your insight on that. That's very helpful. So wish you all the best, brother. It's good to see you.
You too. Thank you.
And it says that Paul Kuiper has a question, and I don't see him.
He's on with me, Mary.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Hey, so I am with Keith, and of course we're 6 feet apart.
We're a Michigan 6 feet. It's different here.
But Rucker, I know you by proxy of Keith having gone to Bold and stuff. But my question is, with your team and just in general, the engagement through this part of, you went to Bold when Keith did, which was in the fall, winter, whatever it was, right? And you're high, you're on cloud 9. You come back, everything's going great. Your business probably starts to boom, probably was booming already, whatever it is. And then this comes along, and it's just this whole new challenge. Like, what are you really doing day to day to keep the people that are working for you and your family and just the people around you? You all of a sudden have this responsibility to all of these people. How do you keep a positive spirit going through this pandemic, I guess is what it's called, but just through this situation right now? I myself have found it hard to just stay positive every day. It's like other people are dictating to me what I can and cannot do, what I'm allowed to do, whether it's in my personal life, business life, whatever. What kind of message are you sending to the people around you to really keep their spirits alive and just hit it hard every day for a business that is still open through this entire thing?
Well, the first thing is that I told everybody, if they're uncomfortable, by all means, do what you got to do and isolate yourself. So I didn't dictate to them that they have to be at work, and I didn't tell them, you have to do this, you have to do this. I basically just said, look, this is a situation that we're all unfamiliar with at this time. If you are uncomfortable, I have your back. That is not a problem. Most of the people stayed. There was a couple people that wanted to at least work from home. I had no problem with that. So we set up and accommodated that, and it worked out fine for the time being. All my technicians, I had one technician that was in Texas at training he was there for 6 weeks. And so all this was going on right when he left. And so his family's at home, and at the training facility that they were at, they were basically isolated. I think there was 12 people there. And so, I got some stuff for his family. I made sure, I said, if there's anything that they need, let me know. I'll take care of it. I bought them some those filter pitcher, the water filter pitcher filtration machines, so they could have water, because water was very scarce in the stores here. I said, if they needed paper towels or toilet paper, whatever it is, I'll try to do my best to get them some. And just kind of having that mentality with them and letting them know that we're all in this together. I'm not judging anybody for having a decision to want to make and protect their family. I have your back for that decision, but if you want to work, this is my plan, and this is what we're going to do, because we have customers that need us at this point. So if that's what you want to do, fine. And I had one guy get sick. He was not he tested negative, but I paid him for the 2 weeks off that he was gone, you know? So, that I think has allowed everybody to kind of feel comfortable that they're not going to lose their job, first off, if something does happen. And two, I kind of said, look, regardless of, and I think the filter thing kind of helped because realistically there are people that need our help. So, having that mentality that, look, people need our help. We are essential for the most part. We were cold and then we got really hot when this was all going on. If there's an elderly person in the house, I'm going to go fix their stuff for her. I'm not going to let her just suffer. So, I'm fortunate enough, I think at this point, to have everybody that's on that same page. I think just being positive and having that mentality is probably the best way to keep that going,
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate that.
All right. Good luck, you guys. Okay.
Guys.
Thank you, bud.
And then I have one other question from BAB, Kate MacArthur. She wanted to know your top 3 favorite hikes.
My top, well, I'm not a hike connoisseur, so I just go by my house for the most part, but there's a lot of stuff here that I can go. There's trails all up around here that I go hike up. So, but if you have some suggestions, let me know because I'm interested in doing and pursuing some of those. We were looking at a book recently about the San Gabriel Mountains and all the hiking trails up in here, which is close to us, and how we can try to find some stuff. But let me know. What do you got? So we can compare notes later, or we can hike together too. So
there you go. She's not that far from you.
Hey, yeah.
I just launched a poll on the feedback, so we just love your feedback. And if there's any other questions for Dylan, we'll bring you on. Otherwise, just absolutely thank you for being here. Thank you for being on. And remember that Tiffany Shimmick is on next week, same time, 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. And she's going to be talking about pivotal leadership. Again, thanks so much, Dylan. I just appreciate you, appreciate just who you are and being such a role model and inspiration. And I love your message.
Thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, have an amazing day. And we have go. Thank you, Dylan. Go team.
All right. That's right.
All right. Have a great rest of your afternoon, guys.